Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So this is the mid-year Freakout book tag, and that means that it is July, and I have officially been on BookTube for 2 years. Yay for that. Still here, still going. So I have all of the questions that I answer in this video in the description below, and then all of the bookish creators that I am going to mention towards the end of the video are also listed, and any past videos that I reference will be there as well. Question number 1. How has your reading year gone so far? I think that my reading year is going great. I'm sitting at 91 books out of my yearly goal of 100, so I am well on my way to meeting and beating that. I did manage to stay out of a slump during the month of June, which was an issue for me last year. I am currently in a popcorn read phase where I'm reading nothing but sports romances, specifically hockey romances by Saxon James and Eden Finley, but that is like one of my go-to comfort reads, and I am currently making my way through the Puck Boy series. It's new to me, and I believe the last 2 books in the series came out this year, so I'm on the 3rd to last book, so the book that came out last year, and then I'll be reading this year's releases. All right, question number 2. What is the best book that you've read so far in 2025? The best thing that I have read this year is actually a duology, and that is the Tiffany Chronicles by Foz Meadows. These are 2 halves of the same story, and I cannot even begin to tell you how much I loved these. I have waxed poetic about each of these books on my vlogs, so I will link those below, and you are welcome to check those out. I believe actually my last vlog is the one that I was going on and on about this one in. To give you a very quick summary of the premise for these books, we start with Velicen Van Aro in his home country. He has just discovered that he was betrayed by his male lover and has run home to get away from him. His father essentially voluntells him that he is going to be marrying a foreign princess for political gain. Unfortunately, his awful ex catches up to him shortly after that conversation, and he essays him in the garden, and as things are coming to an end with that horrible scene, the emissary from the foreign country that he's being married off to shows up and catches them in a compromising position. And instead of that actually being a problem, they offer him a political marriage with the lady's brother instead. And so in this book, he spends a lot of time recovering from the trauma of what happened with his ex and with what happened with his father, who essentially disowned him and told him the only reason he wasn't actually disowned was because he was still useful for this marriage. So he has the trauma of the assault, he has the trauma of being rejected by his father, and now his entire life has been turned upside down, and he is looking at the rest of his life as somebody's husband in a foreign country. So both of these books are about that marriage and how Velicen and Cathari are overcoming the prejudices and expectations and traumas that they each come into this marriage with, and how they overcome those things to become happy, healthy spouses. It does take 2 books to get there. There is a lot of political intrigue. There is a good amount of magic and plenty of romance. If you want more in-depth information on why I loved these books so much, absolutely go back and watch those videos. I just cannot recommend these books enough. They might be my favorites for the whole year, but I don't know. We'll see what the second half of the year holds. And question number 3 is, what is the best reread so far in 2025. And for me, that was kind of a tough one because I have reread some absolute favorites. So the two runners up for this one ended up being War for the Oaks for Emma Bull and Fina by Nino Cipri. These are two of my all-time favorite books, and they both held up beautifully to the reread, as they always do, and I couldn't not mention them. But ultimately, the best book that I have reread so far this year is All Systems Red from the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. I just cannot get enough of Murderbot, and I decided that I needed to reread the first book in the series because the new adaptation on Apple TV of this series was going to be starting soon, so I really needed to read this just so that I had it more fresh in my mind. I really loved it. It was such a great reread, and I will potentially be following up with the rest of the books in the series, but I don't know. We'll see. It depends on my mood. The next question is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2025? And for me, that was Broken Fields by Marcy R. Rendon. This is the most recent book in the Cash Black Bear mysteries. And while I love the entire series, this is definitely my favorite book in the series. I feel like this is the book where Cash is very much coming into her own, and she is starting to really pull together the support system that she has been able to eke out in this world that really is very much against her. And like I said, she's just very much coming into her own. So I loved this book in the Cash Black Bear mysteries. And then for what is a new release you haven't read yet, I actually have 3 books that I have to mention them all. Like, I'm equally excited for all of these. So first up, I've got Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. This is the first published book through Easy Cat Press, which is the bindery imprint for Easy Cat on TikTok and YouTube. And this hits all of the buttons for me. It's got found family, it's a mix of sci-fi and fantasy and horror. It's a take on the Dracula story, and it is a bit of a closed circle murder mystery on top of that all. So I absolutely have to read this, and I don't know why I haven't got to it yet, outside of the fact that I just haven't quite been in the correct mood for this type of story. Like I said, I have been deep diving hockey romances, and that's like all that I can handle right now, but I do feel like I am coming to an end with that particular mood, and I may be ready to pick this up soon. Another one is also one that I haven't gotten to yet because it is a horror, and it deals with the pandemic and the increased racism for Asian people in America during the pandemic, and that is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. This is one of the first books that I picked up from the Aardvark subscription, and I am very excited to read it. It is a very short kind of horror thriller story. I have seen many people read and love this, but I do know that it is a rougher read, and that is one of the reasons that I have not yet got to it. So when I feel like I am in the right headspace for this, I'll pick it up. The premise of this story is the main character is a crime scene cleaner, and she witnessed the murder of her sister when somebody yelled "Bat Eater" and then shoved her in front of an oncoming train. And she starts connecting the dots between the crime scenes that she is cleaning up and the rise in racism against Asians. And I believe that as she follows the breadcrumbs for these connections that she's looking into, she comes across some paranormal things that are involved. So I'm not positive, but that's kind of the gist of what I've gathered from what people have been saying about this. And like I said, I am very interested in reading this once I am feeling like I'm in the right mood for it. The other recent release that I haven't got to yet but really want to is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. This is, I think, a book that is going to hit really close to home for me. It is following a woman who is down on her luck. She has just lost her job, and she comes across a child who is very obviously terrified, and is terrified of his father. And so she rescues him from his father, and and the story follows them as they are being pursued by this man whose rage is potentially paranormal, like werewolf, potentially, maybe. I am again very interested in reading this book. It will be my first book from Nat Cassidy, but I have listened to several interviews with him on podcasts, and I'm very interested to see if his writing style works for me. This is the book of his that has caught my attention the most, so I'm really excited to be starting my journey into his work with this book. And next up we have what is your most anticipated book for the second half of the year? And again, this is one that I have multiple answers for, starting with Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. This is the third book in the Legends and Lattes series. It's technically book number 2. It is a direct sequel to book number 1, whereas the last book that was released before this was actually a prequel to book number 1. This is a cozy fantasy that centers around a coffee shop and the orc who runs it. I believe that the characters that you meet in the prequel are moving to, or at least some of them, are moving to the city that Liv currently has her coffee shop in. And so we get to see characters from both the prequel and the first book interact, and we get to see where these other characters have gone. And I'm excited for that. I don't know a lot about it. I haven't looked a lot into it because I have every intention of reading it no matter what. So I just haven't wanted to spoil myself on that. And then the next book is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is a haunted house story, and because I have enjoyed every book that I have read from Rachel Harrison, I again have not really read the synopsis. I have not dug deep into what I'm getting into with this book yet. I just want to go ahead and go into it blind and see where I go from there. The next one is Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. I have mentioned this before, but I absolutely love his horror, and he is an auto-buy author for me now. This is his third horror novel. I believe he has a horror novella, which I have not read yet, but I have every intention of hunting down. And in this book, it's something to do with magic and luck, and pulling the luck from other people, like as an analogy kind of for capitalism and money, I think. But that isn't, I'm sure, going to be what I love about it. That's just kind of the premise behind the book. And again, I'm going into this blind because he's an auto-buy author for me. And then finally, I am also anticipating Immortal by Morning by Lindsay Sands. This is the 37th book in the Arjanu series. I am not anticipating this to be like a stellar book because this is like my comfort popcorn read kind of series. I have been reading these books since high school, and I don't care if they're good or not. I just love them. They work for me. And so every time one comes out, I have to pick it up. That brings us to the next question, which is, what are your biggest disappointments of the year so far? And I am always so sad to report my disappointments, because that means I was disappointed. I know, it's silly, but it makes me so sad to even talk about these. So I've got 3 books. There were more disappointments than that, but these 3 were the ones that really stung. First, there was Keep Me Close by R.M. Virtues. That is the second book in the Gods of Hunger series, and the sequel to Drag Me Up, which I absolutely loved, and my expectations were so high. And I know I should try to let every book stand on its own, but like the bar was set really high with Drag Me Up, and then this ended up being the version of Enemies to Lovers that I just absolutely hate and despise. I actually talked about this in a vlog, which I will also link below, about, like, I talked in depth about what for me makes the difference between a really good Enemies to Lovers trope and a really well executed Enemies to Lovers, and a not well executed Enemies to Lover, at least for me. And oddly enough, the book that I read right after Keep Me Close was the example that I was able to use for what an Enemies to Lovers story should look like if you feel the same way I do about it. And then the next book that I was very disappointed by, actually the next 2 books I was very disappointed by, were from earlier this month. They were both just so disappointing. I picked up Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews a few months ago, and I really did not enjoy it. I wasn't really feeling it, but I thought that it was more of a mood issue than the book. So I had softy and effed it, and I ended up at the beginning of this month, or end of June into the beginning of July, I had picked it back up and was giving it another go to see how I felt about it. And I was so excited for this. It's about 2 boys who are best friends, and one of them is gay and he believes that he is asexual, and the other one is, I believe, bisexual and allosexual. And it had everything going for it that I was interested in. It had queer representation, including asexuality, and it had all of the gothic academia feels that I just eat up, and like a creepy forest. And one boy writes creepy stories about monsters, and the other boy draws them, and now they are coming to life and they are attacking people, and if they don't kill them, the monsters will come into their school looking for them and kill innocent people along the way. So they are spending every night up battling these monsters that they have accidentally created, and trying to figure out how they made them and how to stop them. And very much feels a little bit like The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, but make it darker and more queer and more gruesome and much more horror. And I just was so excited for it. And ultimately, I know that a lot of people like Jan Agaton and Katie Coulson just absolutely loved and ate this up, and I was so ready to be on board with this and join them in their love for this book. But ultimately, I couldn't handle the invasive thoughts and the relentless self-hatred that each of these boys have, and the unbalanced way that they each love each other so tragically. And then ultimately, in the end, I know that some people feel that the end is kind of left up for debate as to what it means and what actually happened versus, I don't know. I don't really want to spoil it for anybody, but the way that I read it, there was no question about what happened, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I could not handle the end. I thought that there was a lot of it that was great. I still think that I could potentially love this if they did like a movie adaptation of this. I actually think I would really love it as a movie adaptation, if done right. But So far as reading it, I did not enjoy it, and I very nearly DNF'd it. I ultimately finished reading it out of curiosity. I just needed to know how it ended, but being in their heads was just too much for me. And it was the first half of the mood slump that I am in, to where I really have only been able to read my popcorn romances, is largely due to having read this book. So that was a major disappointment for me. I'm actually really glad that I didn't pick it up physically yet, because I really nearly bought it several times thinking that there's no way I wouldn't love it. Oh, I don't have any buyer's remorse for that. And then the last and most recent disappointing read was the book that I had picked up right after this, and that was Triple Sec by TJ Alexander. It is a sapphic polyromance, and while I absolutely loved two people in the throuple, the third person was the only person whose head we were in, and I couldn't stand her. She was just so toxic to herself and within these relationships that I couldn't. Again, it was more of the self-hatred. Although I feel like that's a little bit strong in this instance, maybe not hatred, but self-doubt and the lack of confidence, I guess, that I couldn't take. For an adult, she was very angsty. She very much reminded me of a not quite as dramatic version of these two boys that were in Don't Let the Forest In, so far as like the types of thoughts that she had about herself and being unworthy. And I hate being in somebody's head who thinks like that relentlessly. Like, I'm fine with it if it's a part of the story, but not like the only thoughts that they have constantly on repeat. It's the level of self-doubt that she had for herself and for these relationships that I just struggled with a lot. But I really loved the other two people in this throuple, and I loved the overall storyline. But if TJ Alexander had just written this book from all three of their points of view, I think I could have really loved this book. It was only in the point of view of the character whose head I hated being in the most. I couldn't enjoy it. I honestly only managed to push through to the end because I had it on audiobook, and I was doing a lot of driving back and forth between Salt Lake and home, and so I just sort of pushed through listening to it on the drive. And by the time that I really was like up against a wall and really just wanted to DNF it, I realized I only had like an hour and a half left in the book. And what is the point of DNFing at that point? So I don't know. It's one of those sunk loss fallacies. I probably should have DNF'd this one. I don't know. But the end was good, but it wasn't good enough to make up for how much I did not enjoy like 80% of the book. So there's that for my disappointing reads so far this year. For what is the biggest surprise of the year so far, I'm going to have to say When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I was actually really surprised at how much I loved this, because when I don't know, I have not read anything from Veronica Roth since the Divergent series because of how much I hated the second and third books in that trilogy. I really loved what she did with the setup of that world in the first book, and the rest of it just, as far as I'm concerned, she shit the bed. So I just didn't have a lot of faith in her being able to write another book that I would enjoy, but it has been a very long time since that series, and she has had lots of time to work on her craft. So I eventually caved into the FOMO about When Among Crows that it was being hyped up by everybody last year, but I was prepared to not love it or to very much disagree with everybody because of how much people loved Divergent and I hated it. When this ended up being one of the books that I absolutely loved, I gave it 5 stars. I loved the world. I loved the characters. I loved the direction everything is going in, and I am very much looking forward to the next book. I'm not sure when it comes out, but I'm very much looking forward for the next book in this series. And I was just so surprised at how much I loved this book. Next up is who is your favorite new author, new to you or debut, and for me that is Marcy R. Rendon. I talked about her earlier with the Cash Black Bear series, which I absolutely love. And then there is her standalone book, Where They Last Saw Her. And I have loved every book that I have read from her. I think the lowest rating I have given any of her books is either a 4 or a 4.5. I cannot tell you how much these books have impacted me. I cannot get enough of her books, and I'm really sad that I don't have more to dig into. So far as her actual novels, I've read everything that she's written, and I cannot wait for her to write more so that I can eat it up. All right, and then for the next question, who is your newest fictional crush? I honestly haven't found any characters that I have a, fictional crush on, but I would say the closest would probably be Cade and BB from Triple Sec. Like I said, if TJ Alexander had written that book including their POVs instead of just Mel's point of view, I think I really could have enjoyed that book. I thought that the effervescence and joy that BB embraces life with was just glorious. I could read about her endlessly. And then the juxtaposition of Cade and how reserved they are compared to how passionate they can be is just something I eat up. I love a love interest who is wound so tight that when they let loose, they really let loose. I think that's just a good time for everyone. So I would say that those two are probably the closest to a fictional crush that I have, but I don't know. I still hated the book that they were in. Do with that what you will. And next up is, what is the best adaptation that you have seen so far this year? And so I have an honorable mention that I want to get out of the way first. I absolutely cannot answer this question without mentioning the Murderbot Diaries because, like I said, Apple TV did an adaptation of the first book, All Systems Red, and I absolutely loved it. They definitely take some artistic license with the adaptation. For me, ultimately, between the two, I do prefer the book to the series, but I very much enjoyed the TV series, and so I could not talk about favorite adaptations without mentioning that. While I liked the Murderbot series more than the book I'm about to mention or the adaptation for it, I do think that the movie adaptation of Clown in a Cornfield was better than the book and therefore the better adaptation. I read Clown in a Cornfield, I think last year or the year before, and while I enjoyed it, I definitely enjoyed the movie adaptation more. It was by Shudder and it had like a limited release to movie theaters. I happened to be able to catch that theater release and I definitely enjoyed it. If you are in for just a good old slasher of ridiculous proportions, I think you should definitely check out the movie when it comes out. I believe it's available for purchase, but since it was released by Shudder, I'm kind of waiting to see if they put it on the Shudder app for free eventually. I don't know. We'll see, because I would like to watch it again. If you had a hard time with the book, but you're still kind of interested in watching the movie, I think it's worth your time to check it out. And again, if you just enjoy a good old-fashioned slasher, I think that this will do it for you. For a book that has made you cry so far this year, there's only one that I can think of. I'm positive I must have cried during other books, but the only one that sticks in my mind is one that I've actually already mentioned, and that is A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, which is the first half of the Tithanite Chronicles. This one had me sobbing from the beginning. Definitely keep content warnings in mind when you read this book, because the sexual assault does occur on page at the beginning, and the ongoing trauma from that assault is throughout the book, as you would expect. I think I even cried a little bit during the second book, but not nearly as much as I did in this book. So again, approach with caution, but I very much feel like this book was worth all of the tears. Next up, we have what is the most beautiful book that you have purchased this year, and I have to say that I really haven't been picking up any special editions this year, but the cover for When the Tides Held the Moon is just absolutely gorgeous. I would hang this cover art on my wall. I love it. The premise for this book is that Benny, who is an immigrant in the 1910s New York, is commissioned to build an iron cage for the Coney Island sideshow, and through making this cage, he finds acceptance and found family connection with the cast members. But he's horrified when he finds out that the metal cage that he created is being used to capture and hold a merman. He grows closer to the merman and eventually decides that he has to find a way to release him, even if it means losing his home and newfound family. So it's one of those risk it all for love and to do what's right kind of stories. I am excited to read this, but I'm also a little bit leery because it is a historical fantasy, and I have mixed results with reading historical fantasy. It'll come down to the writing style. I'm really hoping that I'm going to love this, but when I saw this was an option for aardvark, I had to have it because this is just such a gorgeous cover, and I'm really hoping that I enjoy the writing style because the story sounds fantastic. The next question is, what are the books you need to read by the end of the year, including everything that I've mentioned for upcoming releases for the second half of the year and for recent releases that I have yet to read. I will be ecstatic if I manage to read all of those, and then on top of that list, I have a few more that I would like to get to, and that is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I just love T. Kingfisher, and I'm very much hoping that this series is going to be one that I love as well. This is one of their older books, and it is often used as a recommendation for an entry point into T. Kingfisher's fantasy books. So I have all the hopes that this is going to be a great read, and it actually just came in from Libby on audiobook, so we'll see how I feel about it, and if I love it, I will continue to read the rest of the series. And then I also very much want to get to I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com by Kimberly Lemming. I have loved her Mead Mishap series, and so I'm very much hoping that I will enjoy this sci-fi romp of hers. I can't imagine that there is ever going to be a Kimberly Lemming book that I don't love. I only know like the bare bones premise of this story. I think the main character is abducted along with the lion that she was studying, and she is put on a planet with some aliens as a potential mate. I think because they need the population to go up or something. I expect this to be ridiculous and a good time, and I am super excited to read this. And then I also really want to get to The Spear Cuts Through Water this year. I have been wanting to read this since before it was released. This is a fantasy based off of Filipino mythology, and it is a story about a mortal who is assisting a deity who was imprisoned by the current ruler, and he is assisting her in taking down that ruler. So I love a good rebellion. I love a good takedown of the powers that be, and I absolutely love it when mortals and immortals get up to shenanigans together. So I am super excited to get to this. I just have to be in the right mood. Unfortunately, that is the life of a mood reader. I really want to get to this year, though. And then that brings us to the next question, which is, what is your favorite video that you've made so far? And for me, I think that it is, I don't know, like collectively all of the chaos vlogs that I have been doing this year. I really have been enjoying vlogging. But I think my favorite vlog so far is the one from April. I'll have it linked below. It is the vlog that I went to see Death of a Unicorn during that vlog. I really loved that movie, and I feel like that was one of my better vlogs. The next question about videos is, which video did you think would flop but did well? Or which video surprised you with how well it did? I don't post any videos that I think are going to flop. I have deleted more than one video or vlog that I didn't think would do well or that I wasn't vibing with during like the editing process. So I'm definitely going to have to go with the second version of this question. The video that surprised me with how well it did was the video of me unhauling the books from my timeout shelf. Basically, I had been struggling with finding ways to continue donating for Palestine or Congo or the disasters here in America, or to trans people and trans youths who are finding themselves more and more in danger. And I wanted to contribute I wanted to contribute on a larger scale, and I was getting very overwhelmed with wanting to contribute everywhere and not having enough. So I decided that I would take any proceeds for any sales that I make on Pango books and donate it to the World Central Kitchen, because they provide hot meals for people around the world for various disasters and people in countries who are struggling with famine and with being starved, like in Palestine right now. They are who I am contributing to. I do contribute to other charities throughout the year, but this is the charity that I am going to be consistently putting all of my proceeds toward every time I sell something on Pango Books, and anytime I have the ability to add something extra in. And so that video was announcing that that's what I was going to be doing, and then taking all of the books that I have that I had put on my timeout shelf, or what I called my timeout shelf. Basically, it's for any authors who are behaving badly, whose books I already own, but I don't want to contribute to them anymore, and I wanted to take them off of my shelves, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with their books, because a lot of these books were beloved, like for instance Coraline by Neil Gaiman, or the books that I owned by Freydis Moon, and then also I had books on there from authors like Laurel K. Hamilton, who isn't like really an author behaving badly. I mean, she's had a moment or two here or there, but she's not somebody that I like morally can't get along with. Unlike Freydis Moon and Neil Gaiman. I won't go into too much depth with that. All of that is covered in the video that did much better than I expected it to. I believe it almost got 100 views, if I'm remembering correctly, which for me is a lot, because most of my videos are in the low 2 digits or single digits so far as views go. For whatever reason, this video hit really well and got a lot of views. So yeah, there's that, and it's linked below if you're interested in watching it. And the next question is, are there any upcoming videos that you are excited for? And like I said, I've very much been enjoying doing these chaos vlogs where I have taken the pressure off of myself for it to follow any sort of format and just let it happen as it happens. And I read what I read, however I read it, whenever I read it. There's no real structure. It just happens as it happens. And I have also been considering doing a series of if you like this, you'll like that style of video, where I take a book or a series that has been hitting it really big lately and suggesting books that are similar to or have components to them that if you like this book for this reason, you might like these books. So they'll be a little bit shorter than my typical sit downs because I'll really only be covering like one book at a time, and then all of the books that I think that you might enjoy if you like that book. For instance, I'm thinking the first one will probably be about Dungeon Crawler Carl because it has been making the rounds on BookTube and people are loving it. So if you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, I will have a list of recommendations for you coming up, hopefully in the near future. And I think that that also kind of rolls into the next question. Do you have any channel goals by the end of the year? And so there is getting that video series up and going, and then I also would like to be more consistently putting up at least 2 videos a month, if not more. I have had in the last few months just like 1 video per month. There were a few months that I skipped entirely at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure beyond vlogging and some other random sit down videos what I'm going to be doing, but I want to at least be getting 2 videos up a month by the end of the year consistently going forward. Hopefully I will get this video edited at a time to have it up before the month is over, but my editing process has been kind of all over the place and impacted by a lot of life stuff getting in the way, so we'll see, but that is still going to be like a monthly goal going forward. And then that brings us to the final question. Who are your favorite book community members? So I have a list here for you of everybody that I have been consistently watching this year so far and interacting with and really enjoying their content. And again, all of these booktubers are going to be listed below in the description, so if you want to check them out, feel free to go down there and click on their names and see what they're about, you know, on the chance that you don't know who they are. All of these people are much bigger booktubers than I am. So first up, I have Jan Agaton. She is somebody that I discovered last year, and I have been really loving her content. I also love having another creator out there who is Filipino and seeing the recommendations that she has of books that are by Filipino authors. And I don't know, I just like having that extra connection. I'm also a part of her Patreon, and I love the community that she has built there. If you like horror or romance, she's really great for that. She's also a fellow Spoonie creator, so she has a chronic illness that is autoimmune. Arthritis like I do, a different type of arthritis than I have, but a very similar experience in the chronic pain department and in having to take like immunosuppressants and the cycles of the meds working and not working, and the ups and downs of med days versus regular days. And I am able to connect with her on so many different levels. And again, I really love the community that she has built in her Patreon, which is called The Lair. And if you have not checked out her content, you really need to. Next up, we have Win from Literary Diversions. They are a bookish creator who is also part of the Spoonie community, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless, they have some really great content. I love the way that they approach their TBRs. It's nothing I could do, but I love watching other people who are able to give themselves these challenges and stick to them. They do much, much better than I ever could. They also crochet. I'm very jealous of this. This is a thing that I've always wanted to do. My grandmother crocheted and I never did learn myself, but I would love to. I'm not sure though how that would work with my hands. I know that crocheting can be good to, so far as like it's something that keeps your hands moving, but I'm not sure how well I can learn to do it with the limitations that I already have with my grip. I don't know, but one of these days, I'm going to at least give it a try. So I aspire to be a little bit like Win. And then there is Bree from the Locked Booktician. I absolutely love, love, love her content. She has some very like down to earth content where she's just being very real, and she discusses the way that her life is impacting her reading and the way her reading can impact her life. She is a therapist, and she also recommends some of the nonfiction books that she reads for her job, and she always discusses the mental health aspects of the books that she reads, and I find that very like interesting and valuable. And then she also is pretty well known for being the creator of Blackoween. She's currently hosting July Noir for the second time. I participated in July Noir last year. I am not fully participating in July Noir this year because I just don't think I have it in me to do anything that structured. But I will be going through the prompts to see if there's anything I can read that fits one of those prompts and also fits my mood. I want to at least read one book for July Noir. I definitely won't be able to participate fully again. I don't think I can make myself read that many books in that structured of a way right now. My brain just isn't there. I'm still kind of in that recovering popcorn romance mood from having read two such disappointing books earlier in the month. So I don't know. We'll see what I get around to, but either way, I still think that she is fantastic, and I love the content that she puts out. And then there is Izzy from Happy for Now. She is the creator who I probably have the most in common with when it comes to my romance reads and my manga choices. And she also does the Romance Landia rundown at the end of every month, where she goes through the drama that is unfolding throughout the book community, specifically in the romance corner of the bookish community. And I love all of that. I love all of her content. She also does the 24-ish hour readathons every once in a while, which are a fun, relaxed kind of group readathon that I very much enjoy, and I absolutely recommend her content, especially if you like the types of romances that I like. You're gonna like what she puts out there. And then for horror recommendations, I love to watch Kasha from Horror Sickness. She reads pretty much all horror with a little bit of thriller, but like the thriller that shares a Venn diagram with horror. So I like to see what she is reading and what she recommends. She also does like coffee time pairings of like movies and books, so she covers the horror genre on more than one front, and I very much enjoy that. I love her recommendations, and I think that she's very clear in explaining the aspects that she enjoys and doesn't enjoy. So even if she didn't enjoy something from the way that she describes it, I can tell whether or not it's a book that I think I might enjoy. And so again, one of my favorite places to go for horror recommendations. And then I can't not mention Bree from For Paws in a Book. She created and runs the amazing readathon. She is a bookish creator here in Utah, and it's really very reassuring for me to know that there are other bookish creators in my state that I share things in common with. I enjoy all of her content. She's very good at what she does. Bree is definitely one of the booktubers I go to for recommendations for romantasy books. She has probably the closest taste that I have found for romantasy that I actually enjoy, so I always want to hear what she has to say, and I can usually tell from what she says whether or not it's something I'm going to enjoy. I love all of her romance recommendations. She likes some darker romance stuff than what I care for personally, but the way that she reviews books, I know whether or not it's going to work for me. And one of my favorite booktubers in the world is Jess Owens. She has some of the most chaotic content that I just thoroughly vibe with. And I really love her podcast that she does with her friend Mara over on Books Like Whoa. I also love all of Mara's content. Both of them are amazing. I love everything that they have to say. I love hearing Jess's take on the bookish community, and I love getting to see what books she is vibing with and which ones she just is not vibing with. And then with Mara, I love her knitting content. She knits all of her own sweaters. They're gorgeous. I really enjoy her takes on classics and on mysteries. I don't necessarily agree with all of her opinions, but again, that's not necessarily what I'm looking for in bookish content. So again, I really enjoy all of her takes. And then there is Steph from Novelty Corner, and she is definitely my go-to when it comes to sports romances. I know that if she loves it, I'm gonna love it. Like, hands down, gonna love it. She also does a lot of really short videos, so if you're looking for shorter bookish content, you should check out her channel. And then with Mel Reads, she has a lot of different types of content, but my favorite stuff with Mel is her vlogs. I think that the way that she discusses books is great, and I love seeing the aesthetics that she sets up. Her cats are wonderful, and I just really love her. Another creator that I found last year was Morris from More Affirmative. She has not been dropping very much content lately. I think like her most recent video was a vlog a month ago, but I actually really appreciate the way that she will take a step back when she needs to for her own personal mental health, and then she'll come back when she's ready. All of her vlogs are very down to earth. You get to see what her life looks like and see what she's reading. You always hear her family in the background. They sound like a very happy family. The kids are always giggling, having a good time, and it's just really enjoyable content. And then I have another bookish creator from Utah, and that is Shay Geeks Out. I found her through the Amazing Readathon last year, and I really enjoy her content as well. I believe she's also friends with Izzy from Happy for Now. Last year, she was one of the hosts for the Amazing Readathon. I like the variety of content that she puts out there. I really enjoy her community that she has on her Discord, and I like her manga recommendations and her romance recommendations. And lately, she's been doing some vlogging of like putting together a new office in her home, and that content has been a little bit of a switch up from what she usually does, but that's also been very enjoyable. And then last but not least, I have Bella from Throne of Pages. She has such high energy. I wouldn't even begin to try to keep up with her and her energy. One of the things that I really enjoy about her is how much she challenges herself with her readathons and with her like TBRs or her read what you own stuff, where she will make a list of the physical books that she owns that she has to read before she is allowed to buy any more books. She has so much stick-with-itness that I can't even imagine. It's not me, but I love watching it. She also has been very transparent in her struggles with mental health, and very much appreciate that aspect of her vlogs and her content. She always lets us know when she's been struggling. It, I think, is really valuable content for other people who are also struggling, because it makes you feel more connected and less alone in the world. So that is it for the mid-year freakout tag. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and let me know in the comments below which of these questions is your favorite and what your answer to it is. Otherwise, just leave me an emoji, the one with the swirly eyes, for, you know, mid-year freakout, just to let me know that you were here but you're not feeling chatty. And I'll see you next video.
Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer.
The mid-year book freakout. So this is for the meeting, the best book that I have read Cash Black Bears in the for Brigands and Bread Night. What's the premise for this again? Bobo, get out of there, because you leave her alone. Ugh. How is that something that I could not get? Did one of the dogs leave a ghost fart for you?
No, that was a yawn.
Oh!